Hello, my friends. Welcome to PMP Exam Breakfast Club. If you haven't heard about the PMP Exam Breakfast Club, you need to go on down to pmanonymous.com. We meet every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. If you go on down to the website, you can join us. But I'd like to say welcome. Today, we're talking about what to expect on the PMP exam when it comes to the business domain. What do you expect from the business domain? There are 4 tasks, and these 4 tasks are going to be 8% of your exam. So we're going to take a look at these different pieces of the business piece. And by the time we're done, you should know what to expect on your exam. So let's jump into it. All right, here we go. The very first task under the business umbrella states plan and manage project compliance. So what should you expect in plan and manage project compliance? Well, first of all, you need to understand what compliance means. And I have some notes here that I would like you to go back and think about. So you can expect questions from the world of predictive revolving around the definition of compliance. If you were not already aware, the PMBok Guide 6th edition has the word compliance in there in chapter 2. All right, so in chapter 2 of the PMBok Guide, we have some talk about compliance. And you can find this on page 39. And it's kind of cloaked in the word regulations, regulatory agency, that kind of thing. That is really what compliance is about. It's about conforming to a set of regulations or principles or rules, and usually with a penalty. So get very familiar with EEFs when it comes to these compliance topics, okay? And then we might have some other pieces throughout the PMBOK guide. But I also want you to think about your other book, the Agile Practice Guide. Now, when you think about Agile, there are certain things you need to focus on when it comes to compliance. It's not going to be called compliance in that world. In the world of Agile, you can expect the definition of done. You can also expect to see the definition of ready as far as before jumping into your sprint. What is the definition of ready? What does it mean? What is the definition of done? What does it mean? And as far as the Agile piece, it will not be explicit, like I said, but compliance should be built in to both the definition of ready and the definition of done. All right, let's go to our second task. So for those of you just coming, we're talking about what to expect on the PMP exam. And we're talking about plan and manage project compliance. You can see it's got quite a number of enablers, 7 enablers. It's a lot of enablers. So in addition to the enablers, focus on some of the things I mentioned, all right? You can expect the questions to be dressed up with a lot of situational stuff, but touching on some of these and blending in some of the things I'm telling you here. All right, let's go to our second one. This one, evaluate and deliver project benefits and value. Now, if you haven't watched my video on benefits versus value versus features, I would advise you to watch it because it will help you as you study for your exam. All right, so task 2, evaluate and deliver project benefits and value. For this one, definitely expect the benefits management plan. I know some of you might not have opened to page 33 Open up to page 33 in this one, okay? The benefits management plan, even the business case, you could get questions that revolve around that. And you do know that tangible value, intangible value is also covered in the PMBOK guide. Focus on that as well. Watch my video. Okay. All right. From the agile perspective, you can expect questions about the role of the product owner. And one of the terms that the product owner is called outside of formality is the chief value officer, because they are meant to be prioritizing value in the product backlog and in the requirements. You can also expect questions about the MVP, the minimum viable product, and how feedback from the MVP helps to create a better product. You can also expect questions about the basis for incremental methods. And of course, the basis for incremental methods is to deliver value as quickly as possible to the customer. All right, so that is the second task under business. Let's move on to our third task under the business piece. Now, for those of you just coming, we're here at the PMP Exam Breakfast Club, having some breakfast and talking about all things PMP, and it's a great opportunity for folks to chill out on a Monday morning, get tooled up, wired, ask questions, see it as a social confluence, see it as a mentoring or coaching vehicle for your PMP exam. But go on down to pmanonymous.com and sign up. It's a ridiculous steal. You're going to be on a study group where you can ask questions from a mentor and coach who has been there, done that, and trained thousands of people. All right, pmanonymous.com. All right, so let's go back to the business piece and go to task 3. Task 3 in the business: evaluate and address external business environment changes for impact on scope. So this one doesn't have a whole bunch of enablers. And the main thing here is survey changes to the external business environment, regulations, technology, geopolitical, and marketing. As I said in the last one, you can expect chapter 2 and enterprise environmental factors to come up here in some way. So for this one, you might need to think more predictive than anything else when it comes to EEFs, right? You can expect questions that revolve around changes, not just in the world of predictive, though, but also agile. So when it comes to the business environment and it comes to boundary spanning, as we call it, and surveying the boundaries of the business and knowing what exists on the outside of the business and how that can influence your project, while that is something the project manager should think about, in the world of agile, we think differently, a little bit differently. In the world of agile, we see the team, not just a project manager, but we see a team as being responsible for bringing in those pieces of information that could help in boundary spanning. So it's not just left to the product owner, it's not just left to management, but the team, being aware of the business environment, could, in fact, request for additions, modifications, changes to the product backlog. So think about that. On the typical agile project, if the business environment changes significantly, then there should be changes on the project somehow to cope with this. So you can expect to be tested on the concept of agile itself being a plan, I beg your pardon, a change-driven approach versus a plan-driven approach, which we see in predictive. So this is where agile can shine, right? Because the more you are aware of changes in the business environment on an agile project, the more value you can squeeze out from whatever you're doing by adapting to suit that change in the environment, if you get what I mean. All right, let's go to our final one, the fourth and final one in the business piece. And this one just reads support organizational change. So, how do you support organizational change? Again, Agile in and of itself is a vehicle for doing that. But here we see the enablers assess organizational culture, evaluate the impact of the organizational change to the project, and determine required actions. And then the reverse, evaluate the impact of the project to the organization and determine required actions. So for this one, my advice is be aware of the components of change, right? What is in a typical change management plan and what is in a typical configuration management plan. If you've not watched my video on configuration management versus change management, just search for it on YouTube, you'll find it, and get very familiar and comfortable with the ideas of change within a project context. Now, outside of a project context, at a much higher level, see projects as vehicles for change. Projects are run so that we can get value to change and move the organization in the direction that the organization is seeking. So, whatever the relevant methodology, the mantra is that projects move organizations forward. And before looking at making monumental change, assess the culture, understand what exactly the change may do to the organization and what the project could do to the organization and vice versa. Okay, the PMI has a standard, managing change in organizations, a really great standard. They talk about formulating a change and really thinking out the change and planning the change and then implementing it and then maintaining that change and sustaining that change. And in order to do that, you really need to be sensitive to the people who are going through the changes, people in the organization. So you can expect questions where you are a project manager or a servant leader and you need to consider the impact of change before going ahead. Always consider the impact and try to cushion the impact, right? Be aware of the emotional roller coasters that people go through. You know, we call it the J curve. There's a lot of information about that in other documents from the PMI, but we won't go into that today. All right. So, in closing, my friends, quick reminder you want to be part of this study group, go on down to pmanonymous.com. And in pmanonymous.com, you can sign up to be part of the monthly PMP Exam Breakfast Club. We meet every Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Eastern. Bring your drink, bring your breakfast. Safe drinks, though. We don't want anyone tipsy. See you around, my friends. All the best on your exam.